LSU at the buzzer. It was a missed shot that was put back by Tyrell Ward at the buzzer, giving LSU a 75-74 win over Kentucky. For Kentucky, just when you thought things had finally changed, they had finally turned a corner, they were good to go, they just beat Auburn at Auburn, everything's going good, they're going to be okay, everything's going to be fine. No, they go ahead and lose on the road to the LSU Tigers. So let's go ahead and dive in. Let's start with this, is that last night, if you listen to our Tuesday night recap, I told you, I said this was such an important game for the University of Kentucky, okay? So you're coming off the win at Auburn. It is unquestionably your best game. Your manhood has been questioned, the best defensive effort that you have all year. This coming Saturday, you have Alabama at home in a game that, frankly, you can get yourself back into the top of the SEC standings. And on Tuesday night's show, Wednesday morning on the Aaron Torres pod, I said that LSU was the kind of team, this is the definition of a trap game. Big win, big home game on Saturday, and this is the type of game that you can lose. LSU, they finished, I believe, with 2 or 3 SEC wins last year, but Matt McMahon from Murray State, he is a good coach, and they retooled over the course of the offseason. This was a team that has significantly improved from last year, 13-12. Don't let the record fool you. Even in their last 4 games coming into this one, they just beat South Carolina, and their 3 losses before that, at Florida, which is really good, at Tennessee, Alabama at home. And so I said they're veteran, they're experienced, they play defense, and if you do not come out to play, you could have problems. And so essentially, listen, I can't take full credit, because if you go back and look at this game, there's nothing else to say other than that it was just a weird game. But again, I hate to say it, this is what you get when you have a young, inexperienced team. The emotions of the win on Saturday, the emotion of what is to come at Rupp Arena this coming Saturday, and it was just a strange game. Kentucky starts out hot, Antonio Reeves can't miss, then they fall down, then they go on a 16-0 run late in the first half, going into the second half. You think they're in control. You think they're going to get this win. You think they're going to have some momentum going into the Alabama game on Saturday. And instead, it just fell apart. And there is nothing else to say from the Kentucky perspective. There's 2 things, really. One is Rob Dillingham. We will get to him in a minute, and we will certainly talk about LSU. If you're an LSU fan in here, you're probably pissed off that I'm leading with Kentucky. But listen, Kentucky is the story here. And you look at this game, and you want to know what the difference in this game was? The difference in this game was that Kentucky reverted back to who they were defensively over the course of the early part of the season. Listen, we talked about this on last night's show. When you go back and look at the Kentucky-Auburn game, Kentucky wins 74-59 in that game. And in that game, everybody says, oh, the defense just has to be a little bit better. They won 70-59, excuse me. The defense just has to be. No, the defense won them the game at Auburn. And so what I have been saying consistently was the defense, can it be consistent? It doesn't have to be great, but it's got to be better. Well, look at what happened on Wednesday night at LSU. You're up. You're in control. You're up by 9 at half. You go on a 16-0 run. You give up 48 points in the second half. That's just not good enough. That's just not going to get the job done. And so from the Kentucky perspective, I do think there's some positives, and we are going to talk about them momentarily. By the way, the guy that runs our Torres on LSU page has texted me up the you-know-what because he's fired up right now. But I bring it up because with Kentucky, you don't need to be great defensively, but you just can't have a 20-minute lapse like you did in this game. Now, I understand the refereeing was not great, and that is what a Kentucky fan will tell you, and I don't even necessarily disagree with you in this game, okay? LSU shot 13 more foul shots. They missed 9 of them. So Kentucky goes 12 for 12 from the foul line. LSU goes 16 of 25. So if LSU was making foul shots, this game would have been probably over earlier. But of course, the counter to that is that, if Kentucky was better defensively, this wouldn't have been an issue. Listen, LSU is not a great offensive team. There is not an excuse for the defensive effort that you had tonight. And let me also say this. I thought it was a regression by the players. By the way, make sure to drop your comments below. We'll get to some of them momentarily. I thought it was a regression by the players. I'll be blunt. I thought it was a regression by John Calipari too. I thought on Saturday, he did a very good job against Auburn. Tighten the rotation. We talked about it on the Monday show. We talked about it on the Wednesday show. Tighten the rotation. Played 7 players essentially at Auburn. Played the 5 starters, Thiero, Anienso, Antonio Reeves, Justin Edwards, DJ Wagner, Reed Shepard, Rob Dillingham. That was it. Aaron Bradshaw didn't play. Big Z didn't play. They played, I think, a combined 4 minutes. Well, you look at this game, the rotations got all wacky. A lot of Jordan Burks, Aaron Bradshaw, and Anienso late in the game playing together. I just don't get it. And so if you're a Kentucky fan, you have every right to be frustrated coming out of this game. Now, what I will say, there is a positive, and that is that you got a guy named Rob Dillingham on this roster. Now, a couple things. One, first of all, I still think you just put this team in a single elimination bracket. They can play with any. I mean, they've proven they can play with anybody. They just won at Auburn. They've beaten North Carolina. They played with Kansas early in the year when they didn't have a single big guy on the roster. And I do think if there's one positive to come out of this game, you have several dudes that can just take over games individually. Rob Dillingham was incredible down the stretch. He had that scoop and score up and under, 3-point play that, that put them in position to win this game. To their credit, they get the defensive stop. If I'm going to blame Calipari for stuff, I got to give him credit. He went offense for defense late. They got the stop. They got the ball to Rob Dillingham. He gives them the shot to take the lead. You can't blame a team for a buzzer beater. And I do think if there's a positive, late in this game, you know what it was? It was pros versus Joes. It was pros versus Joes from the perspective that, essentially, Calipari just went full NBA of we are going to give the ball. We are going to give the ball to our best player. We are going to let him make plays. We are going to let him cook. And so I do think if there is one positive out of this game, it is that you still have dudes that can just take over games late when you need to. But the defense, it has to be consistent. Now, the good news is you still got 2.5, 3 weeks left. You don't have very many road games left, although you do still have to play at Tennessee. But you look at this weekend. First of all, it starts at home if you're Kentucky. Because remember, Kentucky has lost 3 straight at home. Well, 3 of 4. They beat Ole Miss. But they've lost 3 of 4. They have to win this game on Saturday against Alabama. Not because for any SEC stand, but for momentum, for whatever, for this, for that. So I don't know what else there is to say, but it is a frustrating loss for Kentucky because you had a chance, you were in it, you had momentum. I don't know what else there is to say. This game should have been over with 15 minutes to go. You were on a 16-0 run in the early part of the second half, and you just completely gave it away. It's frustrating. I do think if there's a positive, it is that the offense was on fire. Tell you what, Matt, because I'm guessing we probably have a lot of Kentucky people coming in. Are there any Kentucky-related questions we can get to before we get to the rest of the show? If not, we can go ahead and get to some other topics from Tuesday night. Maddening finish from Benjamin Patrick. Does this loss say anything about where Kentucky is right now as a tournament team? No, I don't think it says anything about where Kentucky is as a tournament team. What I think it says is it's the positive and negative. The positive is there are just going to be nights where on any given night, you can just completely take over games. You have 2-3 guys that on any night can completely take over. By the way, if there's any positive at all, it's that DJ Wagner, who I still believe in, he has his moments. 0 points today. So there are positives, and I don't think it really reflects in the tournament, but I think what you want is any degree of consistency. That's the part that's frustrating. You get the best defensive effort of the year on Saturday against Auburn, and I mean, I can't sit here and say it's the worst defensive effort, but 48 points in the second half to LSU, 45% from three from them, 9 of 20. It's like, my goodness, you have to be frustrated if you're a Kentucky fan. Matt, before we move on to the rest of the night in college hoops, any other questions? And we will get to more questions at the end. Hell of a shot made by UK to take the lead. Listen, Rob Dillingham was that dude tonight. Okay, listen, and you know, he is so, like, I don't even know what else there is to say, because early in the game, he was killing them. He just was missing open shots. He wasn't looking good. And then he just gets hot. He takes over. He gets to the rim. He had that step back three that the refs thought was a 2. Shout out to the refs, by the way. You know who was the real MVP tonight? Real MVP was the monitor, because the refs kept going to it. And the refs had no idea what was going on. They missed a clear block that they called a goaltend. They missed a clear 3 that they called a 2. It was just a wild game. And I get it. This is part of having a young team. It's frustrating, whatever. Matt, do we have one more? Because I do want to get to some other stuff. Big part for me, hurts our chances at the SEC double bye. That's the frustrating part. Alabama was so vulnerable today, okay? You win this game. You beat Alabama. You are 1 game back of Tennessee and Alabama going into the final 2 weeks of the season. Obviously, now I think it eliminates an SEC regular season title. I don't want to start trying to do the math on a double bye at the SEC tournament. You got to finish in the top 4, obviously. Right now, you're 8-5, tied with Florida for the 6th spot, technically. Alabama, Tennessee, South Carolina, Auburn ahead of you for the 4th spots, for the top 4 spots. Again, you still have Alabama this weekend and Tennessee, but that is frustrating.